All right. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. We are back. Continuing on with our look at the triennial Torah portion. This week, we are going to be dealing with Numbers chapter 15, Numbers 25, Numbers 25. In Numbers 25, we see the story that involves Pinchas. We'll be talking about the zeal of Pinchas. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get right into it. I think we'll just go ahead and read through the entire chapter here, and we will go back, of course, and look at it. Let me go ahead and pull up for us Numbers 25. Numbers 25. All right, go ahead and just read through that. Nice and loud.
And it says, "And Israel dwelt in Shittim, and the people began to whore with the daughters of Moab. And they invited the people to the slaughterings of their mighty ones. And the people ate and bowed down to their mighty ones. Thus Israel was joined to Baal Peor, and the displeasure of Yahweh burned against Israel. And Yahweh said to Moshe, Take all the leaders of the people and hang them up before Yahweh, before the sun, so that the burning displeasure of Yahweh turns away from Israel. And Moshe said to the judges of Israel, Each one of you kill his men who were joined to Baal Peor. And see, one of the children of Israel came and brought to his brothers a Midianite woman before the eyes of Moshe, and before the eyes of all the congregation of the children of Israel, who were weeping at the door of the tent of appointment. And when Pinchas, son of Eleazar, son of Aaron, the priest, saw it, he rose up from among the congregation, and took a spear in his hand. And he went after the man of Israel into the tent, and thrust both of them through, the man of Israel and the woman through her belly. Thus the plague among the children of Israel came to a stop, and those who died in the plague were 24,000. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, Pinchas, son of Eleazar, son of Aaron the priest, has turned back my wrath from the children of Israel, because he was ardent with my ardor in their midst, so that I did not consume the children of Israel in my ardor. Therefore say, See, I am giving him my covenant of peace, and it shall be to him and to his seed after him a covenant of an everlasting priesthood, because he was an ardent for his Elohim, and made atonement for the children of Israel. And the name of the man of Israel who was struck with the Midianite woman was Zimri, son of Salu, leader of a father's house among the Shimonites, yeah. And the name of the Midianite woman who was struck was Cosbi, the daughter of Sor. He was head of the people of a father's house in Midian. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, distress the Midianites, and you shall strike them. For they distressed you with their tricks, with which they deceived you in the matter of Peor, and in the matter of Cosbi, the daughter of a leader of Midian, their sister, who was struck in the day of the plague because of Peor.
All right. Very much. Very good. Okay, so let's go back up here. Look at a few things. There's many things to talk about over here. Let's go back up. We look over, starting with the first verse over here, we see that it says that Israel began to play the harlot with the daughters of Moab. And it's interesting that when we look, we remember back from last week, and the Moabites were dealing with Balaam, trying to get him to curse the people of Israel. And of course, every time he tried to do it, talks about a blessing coming forth. And so that happened 3 times, and then they give up and they go their separate ways, the text tells us. And so when we continue with what's going on, we see that Israel, it says, began to whore with the daughters of Moab, which, was the very people that they were dealing with. And so when we think about all of this, now at this point, seeing that Balaam was unable to curse Israel directly, we find that he was actually able to actually bring a curse upon the people by destroying or compromising the union between the people and our Elohim by enticing them into sin. Okay, so once you bring in the idea of freedom or liberty and passion into play, these seductive acts come about. And we understand that, based on the entirety of Scripture, and also further on down when it comes straight out and says it, Balaam, showed there's a direct connection between Balaam and the fact that these people began to whore with the daughters of Moab. This is the way that, he taught the people to be able to destroy Israel. If we look over at Revelation chapter 2, let's read verse 14 here. 14.
But I hold a few matters against you, because you have there those who adhere to the teaching of Balaam, who taught Balak to put a stumbling block before the children of Israel, to eat food offered to idols, and to commit whoring.
Yeah, so we see over here, this, at this point is the knowledge of what Balaam has actually done, where he actually taught the people how to interact with Israel, which would cause them to be this stumbling block. And so when we look at things like, if we go over to 1 Corinthians 10, let's read from 10, verse 6. Verse 6. Start reading at verse 6 right there.
And these became examples for us, so that we should not lust after evil, as those indeed lusted.
Okay, these is talking about the Torah. When we're able to look back at the things that we learn from the Torah, they become examples for us, so that we should not lust after evil, as the people back then indeed lusted. Keep on going.
And do not become idolaters, as some of them.
The people of old. Yes, go ahead.
As
you see back in the Torah. Okay, go ahead.
As it has been written, the people sat down to eat and to drink and stood up to play.
Keep on.
Neither should we commit whoring, as some of them did. And in one day 23,000 fell.
Yes.
Neither let us try Messiah, as some of them also tried.
They tried him way back then. They tried him. Yes, go ahead.
And were destroyed by serpents. Neither grumble, as some of them also grumbled.
They stayed grumbling.
And were destroyed by the destroyer. You want to keep going?
Yes, 11 and 12.
And all these came upon them as examples, and they were written as a warning to us, on whom the ends of the ages have come, so that he who thinks he stands, let him take heed lest he fall.
Yeah, so we're able to look back at the Torah. We're able to look back at the things that we see go on with ancient Israel, and understand, based on the fallings, the failings, and the mishaps of the people, that there's another way for us to be, and we need to use those people as our examples, right? And so we need to be able to take heed that we do not, just like ancient Israel, allow Moab to cast the witchery of sensual indulgences over us, lest we excite the displeasure and the wrath of the Most High. When we think about the idea of what Moab has done, that we can just talk about what the world does. Anyone who is on the outside, what they do, what they can do, what they have the ability to do, Gentiles, enemies, whoever, to us, who are able to teach us and show us their ways, that is contrary to the will and the ways of the Most High. When we think about, where we are, even right now to this very day, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for turning away from the will of the Almighty. And so, one of the things that we think about in terms of kind of a prelude to this is something that we'll see as we keep on going, is this interesting word here. Let me see here. Let me pull this up here. Let me get this on the dictionary here. Okay, here, let's see here. That's a long word too. Yes, here we go. Licentiousness. This word matters, especially in what we're talking about over here, because this is what happened. Israel seen those licentious Moabites, and they was just enticed by their exoticness, beauty. I don't know if they was beautiful or not. If they just was like nasty or whatever they was, right? But this idea of excessive indulgence of liberty, contempt of just restraints of law, morality, and decorum. We can think about it. These people, of course, they took it to a sensual place, right? It talks about them whoring with the daughters of Moab. But the idea of having the mere ability to do a thing and then doing that thing to the utmost, this over excessive indulgence of liberty. When we think about here, if we look at, let's see here, if we take off, let's see, let's take off the I can't hardly see that up there. I think that's it there. There we go. Licentious. Oh yes. If we go down here, using license, indulging freedom to excess. Unrestrained, yes, unrestrained by law or morality. When you think about, loose is also something that we see that's connected with this. And so when we think about this, right, and we think about these people that we know, this thought process, this idea of people having this disconnection with the law of the Most High, this disconnection with the things that the Most High calls to be right and good, and saying, oh, we don't have to do that. That was for those people back then, and we don't have to worry about the law. We don't have to think about things in such this rigid, quote unquote rigid, I'm gonna put my finger quotes up, this rigid way. This type of thought process is able to take you so far away from the Most High, it becomes impossible to return. Something else we see over here. Where is this? Let me go back over to this. This word here, this wanton word. What's this word mean here?
Wanton.
Wandering or roving in gaiety or sport, frolicsome, darting aside. I want to go down to, where's this number 3 at? Wandering from moral rectitude. Licentious, that's our word over there. Indulging in sensuality without restraint. Indulging in sensuality without restraint. That's one of the things that these people were doing in terms of this whole playing the harlot with the daughters of Moab. also more appropriately deviating from the rules of chastity, lewd, lustful, lascivious, libidinous. All right, so we have all of these different kinds of words, right? Lewdness and lasciviousness, all of these things that go along with these actions that it speaks of these people doing. Having a relaxed attitude about boundaries causes you to forget about boundaries, which causes you to get into, as they did, gross iniquities. Let's look over in Mark 7. Let's see, verses 20 down to 23.
Says, and he said, what comes out of a man that defiles a man? For from within, out of the heart of men, proceed evil reasonings, adulteries, whorings, murders, thefts, greedy desires, wickednesses, deceit, indecency, an evil eye, blasphemy, pride, foolishness. All these wicked matters come from within within and defile a man.
Okay, Yeshua's over here talking about the things that come out from inside of you, your carnal desires. So we think about the law, the Torah, the law, statutes, and commands, which puts boundaries on our carnal desires, the things that we feel in our flesh that we need or want to do. But our flesh wants to just be free. It wants to loosen the restraints. And we see over here with the Moabites, we see with the things that were taught to the Moabites through Balaam, this idea of a loosening of these things. It's okay. You can be with these women. It's not that big of a deal. It doesn't really matter. Just go ahead and be free and do whatever it is that you want. And they did, in fact, do whatever it was that they wanted. Right? And so when we look over here and see this, this has some serious consequences, right? Yeshua talks about the fact that these are the things that, in fact, defile you. Right? And that's what happened. Let's go over to Romans. We still talking about numbers, but there's a lot of things that we can look at and see over here that points us over to what it is that Balaam, instructed for these people. Oh, wait, it's 13. 13. Let's start reading at verse 10.
Love does no evil to a neighbor. Therefore, love is completion of the Torah.
When we think about the idea of operating in the spirit, operating in love, right? You act in a particular way. And so acting in that particular way causes there to be a completion of the Torah. But we have people who have a misunderstanding about the way in which all of these things work and think that there's some kind of looseness, a disconnection to what we know of as the character of the Most High, and saying that we don't have to worry about those things. But when we look over at verse 10, this action that we operate in love is a completion of the law. And love is an action. It's not something that happens inside of you that no one can see. It's the way in which you deal with one another. And so when you deal with one another in a particular way, that is the completion of the law. Keep on going, verse 11.
And do this, knowing the time, that it is already the hour for us to wake up from sleep. For now our deliverance is nearer than when we did believe. The night is far advanced, the day has come near. So let us put off the works of darkness, and let us put on the armor of light. Let us walk becomingly as in the day, not in wild parties and drunkenness, not in living together and indecencies, not in fighting and envy, but put on the Master Yeshua Messiah, and make no provision for the lusts of the flesh.
Okay, making no provisions for the lust of the flesh. Lust of the flesh, examples of those things is what it said right here in 13, like indecencies or wantonness, right? Or licentiousness or lasciviousness. Oh, we didn't find out that lascivious is the same as of that. Yeah, here, let's look over here real quick. Galatians 5 and 19.
It says, and the works of the flesh are well known, which are these: adultery, whoring, uncleanness, indecency.
Indecency. Here, let's look at this. Here, let's see this real quick. If we go up here, let's take away this. And let's add for let's say the King James. Look at this. Verse 19, lasciviousness. And here's our word right here, lasciviousness, which is this word that means see here, licentiousness, including other vices, filthy, lasciviousness, wantonness. These things are all kind of synonymous with one another. If we look at what is this here? Let me see if I would find the right dictionary entry here. Oh wait, went too far. One of the things that we could think about here is looseness, with this irregular indulgence in animalistic desires. And when we think about animalistic desires, you know, just talking about the idea of not having any type of self-restraint about oneself, right? Just doing whatever you think may feel like you should be doing. Just doing whatever you think might feel right at the moment based on these, appeasing your pleasure senses, right? Another way to think about these things, you know, when we think about lasciviousness, another thing that we think about in terms of this thought process, we think about modesty in terms of this lasciviousness, because modesty is something that will prevent that can help in the prevention of lasciviousness, right? If I, you know, am, you know, advertising all of my private parts and causing them to look like a meal on a platter, I'm enticing. I've become loose in my restraint. I've become free. We see these people. I always see these things in, in the metaverse. This singing person that's kind of heavy set, I'll say. But she's free, so she feels the need to always just show, all of her.
He said she's free.
All of her body. She's free, right? And so, but it's just an overindulgence of freeness, right? And so when we think about the idea of all of these so-called freedoms that that people want to enjoy, these things are always things that can only lead us away from the Most High. And we see that when we think about what happened over there in Moab, that was part of the situation. I want to look at Isaiah Yeshayahu, chapter 3. Here, start reading at verse 16 right there.
And Yahweh says, because the daughters of Zion are haughty and walk with outstretched necks and seductive eyes, walking and mincing as they go.
Wait a second. Those seductive eyes. That's probably talking about them big eyelashes they be having. Ain't it? Them seductive eyes.
What's wrong with them with those eyes?
Them little colorful eyes walking and strutting around in their situations. Go ahead.
Making a jingling with their feet. Therefore Yahweh shall smite with a scab the crown of the head of the daughters of Zion.
So the sense they was going about in this haughty way, in this lascivious way, or they was advertising their beauty, advertising it, and calling attention to themselves. The Most High said He gonna smite them because of that. Keep on.
And Yahweh exposed their nakedness.
So He caused them to be naked, which is a shameful thing, though. These people walking around today, with their whole everything just showing, like it's supposed to be out. But as a point of chastisement, it said that Yahweh exposed their nakedness. Keep on going. 18.
In that day, Yahweh takes away the finery of the anklets and the headbands and the crescents, the pendants, the bracelets and the veils, the headdresses and the leg ornaments and the sashes and the perfume bottles and the amulets, the rings and the nose jewels, the costly robes and the cloaks and the shawls and the purses,
all this stuff,
the mirrors and the fine linen and the turbans and the large veils. And it shall be, instead of a sweet fragrance, a smell of decay.
Ew, they gonna stink.
And instead of a belt, a rope. And instead of well-set hair, baldness. and instead of a festal robe, a girding of sackcloth, and branding instead of loveliness.
Okay, very good. So we see all of this stuff that happens as a result of this looseness. Oh, I just want to just look nice. But looking nice when it turns into this enticing thing is actually called lasciviousness, right? Which is what Balak said that the women, the Moabite women need to be towards the Israelites. Just go over there and just show off your women and show them how beautiful they are, and they just gonna just be enticed by them, right? So let's go back over there to Numbers, because let's see, Numbers 25. Numbers, because when we look at verse 2 over here, where it says that they invited the people to the slaughterings of their mighty ones. It's just an invitation. You see all them fine Moabitess women over there? Come over here and check them out over here. And be with them. And know them. And the people ate, it said, and bow down to their mighty ones. But it's interesting to know that when we think about these people and what they did, it wasn't as if they just went over there and, well, it tells us already they began to whore with the daughters of Moab. When we think about the idea of them going and bowing down to their mighty ones, it wasn't just about them going and literally bowing down to these things. Verse 3, it says that Israel was joined to Baal Peor. They were connected. Here, let's look at this word here. Joined himself. This word samad, to link, to gird, to serve, contrive, fasten, join. They were joined by this action that their worship of these deities involved sexual actions. And so the way that they served them, the way that they bowed down to their mighty ones, essentially was partaking in these sexual acts. This over indulgence of physical pleasures. Okay, so it wasn't like as if there was just some statues that they was going up and just bowing down to. The part of the thing that they went and did with these things were these these obscene acts. Baal Peor, literally the Lord of openings. And so part of the things that they did was explore openings. Okay, and so without being too what I'm saying. And so when you think about all of this, when you look into this more, we see that this Baal Peor actually, it literally just means the Lord of openings, but we're talking about this Mount Peor where they went and they did all of these things. If you look into this more, we actually find that the god that they were serving was actually Chemosh, which is we've heard of Ishtar, which is kind of the same god with different people. If we look over at this thing, there's this relic that was found. I believe it was like in the 60s or something like that. This Moabite stone that connects Chemosh and Ishtar, the Moabite god and the Phoenician god. Ishtar was this, it was a masculine god, but it was also like androgynous at the same time. It was this god that was kind of both. And they draw a connection between this Chemosh god, the Moabite god, the god that they served on the Mount Peor, again, which involved all of these, these lascivious actions in them. And so when we see the way that the Most High reacts as a result of this, right? This is not a small thing. It's not a small thing that that they were doing. And so it says, we see over in verse 3, the displeasure of Yahweh burned against the people. And so it says, this is interesting over here. Not exactly. There's different ways you could probably look at this verse 4, where it says that Yahweh said to take all, this translation says, take all the leaders of the people and hang them up. Right? And so when we look at this word over here, we see in the King James, it says, take all the heads of the people. And so the head could literally be a head. Right? It literally is, if the word literally means head. Yes. Right? And so you could say that these people that was involved in this thing was decapitated. Mm-hmm. Right? Because it says over here, it says take the heads of the people and hang them. Well, if you're hanging the people or you're hanging the heads, because this word for hang over here, this yakah word, means to sever oneself, right? To abandon, to impale. And so when we look at all of these words, this thing that they did, this severing, this abandoning of the head, you could potentially look at this and say that these people was actually got their heads cut off. Potentially. That's one way you could look at it, what they did. But another thing that you could also, another way that you could also think about this Numbers 25 and verse 4 is the fact that, the leaders were the ones who allowed for this thing to happen, the heads of the people. They allowed for this to happen, and Israel, a great part of Israel was, was involved in all of this thing that they were doing. And so they just went ahead and just, cut the heads off of all of these people. You basically causing the people to be extinct. But when you think about taking the heads of the heads of the people, the leaders of the people, and hanging them, as it says, before the sun, this is a thing. This is a thing that we did to those that would deserve it. When we look back at some of these historical commentaries, it says over here, this was done openly. This idea of hanging people, just out in the sunshine, Kind of like how they did Conan the Barbarian when they hung him up. You ever see that?
Yeah.
They hung him up in the
old,
desert.
The old school shows, though, not the movie.
Nah, the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. They hung him up there and just left him there. And the birds was coming and they was like trying to eat his eyeballs, but he was tied up to this tree in the heat of the day, like. And so it was a thing that they did, not only for the people's own punishment, but also so that the people around might see what will happen to you when you do certain things and fear. It was a thing that they did where it talks about the idea of hanging them against the sun. A lot of these people, there was sun worship involved in their idolatry, and hanging these people up against the sun, showing them that the sun wasn't about to come and rescue these people down from the thing that the Most High has called for them to be doing. And so they're hanging up there, in opposition to these idols that they're worshiping all day, right? They left them up there all day. Something that they did. If we look over in Deuteronomy 21 and 23. Oh, just read 22 and 23, I guess.
And when a man has committed a sin worthy of death, then he shall be put to death, and you shall hang him on a tree. Let his body not remain overnight on the tree, for you shall certainly bury him the same day. For he who is hanged is a curse of Elohim, so that you do not defile the land which Yahweh Elohim is giving you as an inheritance.
Okay, very good. So we see over here, the Most High literally gives us instructions as to these people who are worthy of death. And and these people actually definitely fit into that category who was doing all of this filthiness with these other gods. And we see that kind of fits with this idea of what we see over in verse 4 in terms of where it says to, I gotta go back so I can see.
Real quick on this topic, it's interesting how it ties into, we speaking, whatever time of the book is speaking of with the, Moshe, Aaron and all them. But fast forwarding, modern day version of it was the lynchings. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that, it's in our history. It's like the Most High had, that was just synonymous for what happened to us. Yep. And it was like, clearly we have went against the Most High, and that was him bringing another nation. And it says here that we're supposed to do it to those who disobey. But it's crazy he had another nation come against us to do it to us because we didn't do what he said.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
It's interesting how these things work in terms of the Most High giving us these things to govern our own selves, but then when we go astray from those things, we still subject to the consequences of the laws and things that we break. Mm-hmm. And so when we think about the fact that, thinking about this idea of looseness and so-called liberties and doing things in excess, no matter how far you want to remove yourself from the Most High, you're not able to escape the consequences of the things that he puts in place. And so when we look over here, we go back over to Numbers. where now, the Most High gives instructions, not only to hang the heads, but, to kill these people who join themselves to Baal Peor, these gods that they serve in these pagan this pagan nations. So if we drop down, we read in verse 7 where we see that verse 6 is something interesting on top of what we've already seen with the people joining themselves to these women. In verse 6 that we just heard, let's just read 6 again.
Oh, and see, one of the children of Israel came and brought to his brothers a Midianite woman before the eyes of Moshe and before the eyes of all the congregation of the children of Israel, who were weeping at the door of the tent of appointment.
Okay, and so this is interesting because when we look at this and we understand what's going on, we're able to get a better picture. The people was at the door of the tent of appointment, weeping there. And so this thing that happened, it says that one of the children of Israel came and brought this woman before the eyes of Moshe and before the congregation who was at the door of the tent of appointment. And so this is not something that's going on somewhere in somebody's tent somewhere. This is something that's in the view of all of the people, because the people are busy weeping about at the tent of appointment, as it says, about all of this stuff that just happened. Like the people is dying because of the sin that happened. And then as the people are still weeping and crying over the sin that happened, this person comes over with more sin and looseness and lasciviousness in the eyes of everybody. In the eyes of Moshe, he didn't care nothing about Moshe, whatever he had to say about any of the things. And in the eyes of the whole congregation of Israel, it says. And so now Pinchas looks at all of this. It says that he rose up and he took a spear in his hand, and then he killed the man and the woman. The man and the woman through her belly at the same time, through him and through her. One spear, one strike. While they are sitting up here doing this gross iniquity in front of everybody. And so again, you get a more of an idea of the wickedness of the people and the way in which they serve their gods, right? The way that they served their gods had to do with fornication, and it was just so wicked that they wasn't able to even just be somewhere else. They had to be where all the people was at while they was doing it. And then also we see that the thing that they was doing. Hold on, let's see. Oh, it's further down here where it talks about these people, who they was in terms of sons of these sons and daughters of these high up people. These people was performing a ceremony in front of the people. This is how nations combine. They get, the leader has a son and another leader has a daughter, and they join together. This is how nations combine with each other. And so they're sitting up here combining these nations in this nasty ceremony that they're having in front of everybody. But the thing that we want to pay attention to is the fact that it tells us that it's in the eyes of Moses. It tells us that. And then not only Moses, but everybody else is there too. But this Aaron's son, Pinchas, Aaron's grandson, Pinchas, sees all of this. And he's the one that comes and takes action. And so it says that when he does that, it turned away the wrath, the Most High's wrath from Israel. And, that's really one of the things that I really want to kind of look at even more, because when we think about the fact that, you had basically the whole nation is there, and no one is able to come and stop this thing that's happening. They just allow for this whole thing to go down in their midst, right? Her verse 11, they're using some words what do it say in the King James here? Can you just read this bottom part down? Right?
Yeah, Pinchas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the priest, have turned my wrath away from the children of Israel, while he was zealous for my sake among them, that I consume not the children of Israel in my jealousy.
Yes. So we see that it says that because of his zealousness for the Most High's sake, that he stops the wrath, because some more wrath was coming because of this thing. They was already over there weeping as a result of wrath, but more wrath was coming because this wickedness just wasn't. There was no end to it, right? We just got finished hearing about the fact that all of these people were dying as a result of the iniquity that they had got into. And as soon as that's finished, we see more coming. And so as a result of this, we see that now this covenant of peace and this perpetual priesthood is now given to Pinchas and those that follow after him, which is interesting because Aaron, between his sons, all of his sons now were the ones who would be the priests. And so, but now it kind of moves over to Pinchas and his line, which is still part of Aaron's line, but it's now more specific because of this act that he has done. There's things that I was just thinking about in terms of Pinchas and this idea of bloodlines and things that we'll talk about a little more. But we see that there's the actions are a little different than what we see with which was actually a problem with Aaron. We'll get back to that. But I want to go back and look at John. Go over to John chapter 2, because it's necessary for us to be able to learn from Pinchas and understand that we're not able to just sit by and witness wickedness and not do anything. We deal with, our people. This is a nation. This is a functioning nation over here. And, when this wickedness rises up right in the middle of it, something has to be done. You can't just sit by and allow for these things to go on and not say anything, because your silence really is participation, right? When you sit by and just allow for things to happen in your sight, you might as well be co-signing the thing, whatever it may be. Somebody said, I was thinking the whole "only God can judge me" thing. Yes, people say that, but right over here, Pinchas judged them people. Pinchas did it, and then the Most High was pleased with the judgment that he enacted.
Right.
I don't know where this comes from, but people say it like it's a Bible thing. Only God can judge me. We see example right over here where Pinchas was the judge and the jury
and the executioner.
Executioner.
There you go.
He was all of those things, right? But read for us. Let's see, 13. Read down to 17, 13 through 17.
It says, and Pinchas of the Yudim was near, and Yeshua went up to Jerusalem, and he found in the set-apart place those selling oxen and sheep and doves, and the money changers sitting. And having made a whip of cords, he drove them all out the set-apart place with the sheep and the oxen, and poured out the money changers' coins and overturned the tables. And he said to those selling doves, "Take these away. Do not make the house of my father a house of merchandise." And his top ones remembered that it was written, "The order of the house has eaten me up."
Yeah. And so we see over here, I don't know how long it takes for him to get these cords together to make himself a whip. But however long it took, he definitely did it, and he chased them people out of there. That was in the temple doing all of this foolishness. Yeshua did, the meek lamb of Elohim.
Yeah.
This lowly, meek person.
He got physical with these people.
He did. He definitely did. He definitely did. And he was victorious in his dealings.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that. Like, it was people that was in there that he chased out of there. People that this one person chased out of there physically.
Yeah.
He wasn't having it. And so when we think about, what we see going on over here, similar to what we see with Pinchas, as to where you see this thing that's going on, that's supposed to be, this is supposed to be a holy place, right? They was in the set apart place, but Yeshua chased them out of that place because they was in there doing, they turned the set apart place into the store.
Mm-hmm.
you know, I don't like when I and this has happened many times when you go to these different congregations and you're actually able to buy things there on Shabbat, and people are selling their books or tapes or whatever. And I've been places where and we're talking about people who are I'm there observing the Shabbat, and as I'm there, there's tables of people, and they're selling things. I mean, if you want to sell your things, that's us. We live in this capitalist society. By all means, sell your things, but you can't be selling your things on Shabbat,
Right.
while you're keeping the Shabbat. It's contradictory. The two things don't go together. But I feel like Yeshua is teaching me that I need to just not buy, but I should talk to them people. Like, you really selling this stuff on Shabbat? Because he wasn't. It wasn't like Yeshua didn't just not participate in what they was doing. He didn't just walk away and shake his head like these people crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like he went into action. Just like Pinchas went into action. And so, we learn that this the scripture that they use over here, Psalm 69, the zeal. This word here means zeal. The zeal for your house has eaten me up. Like, there's something that happened on the inside of Yeshua at that moment. Zeal for the Most High and his place. It says it was eating him up inside, so much so that he had to act. And so when we think about these things, our people now, who are doing these things, and we just stand by the wayside and just become spectators. We got to step up and move into action. These are the examples that we see over here. Again, we think about Pinchas. Think about the grandfather of Pinchas, and look at what the Most High does for those that are about Yah and His business. This thing that these people were doing over here, this wasn't like a singular act between two people. This was this ceremonial thing that was happening between nations. It was just being carried out by two individuals. And when we see Pinchas, we see that he both, he looks, the thing that he did, when we look at Pinchas, and we see that his actions exhibit things that he inherited from his fathers, and we also see things that he did that was actually better than his fathers. Pinchas, being a Levite, I talk about this, and we're able to see examples of this is in the scriptures. The Levites having this blood lust, right? there's a bloodlust that's present in Levi. There's also a zeal for Elohim. If we look over in Genesis, if we go back, follow back the bloodline. If we go back to Genesis in 34:25, look at that real quick. 34.
34 or 24? 24?
34
Oh, okay. That's the chapter.
and
Gotcha.
25.
25. And it came to be on the third day, when they were in pain, that two of the sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, each took a sword and came boldly upon the city and killed all the males.
So we see over here, it goes all the way back to Levi with this bloodlust. He's bloodthirsty, this guy and his brother, about revenge for his sister, right? And so they go through, they circumcise all the males, and they make it seem like everything's all good. We cool with each other here. Let's do this thing to join us. And while they are all in pain from the thing that they did, him and his brother go through and kill them all for revenge for his sister, right? And then this is crazy, right? And then as a result, we see, if we go to 49 and 5 through 7, what's that say?
It says, Simeon and Levi are brothers. Their weapons are implements of violence. Let my being not enter their council. Let my esteem not be united to their assembly, because they killed a man in their displeasure, and they lamed an ox in pleasure. Cursed be their displeasure, for it is fierce, and their wrath, for it is cruel. I divide them in Jacob, and scatter them in Israel.
Now this is the prophecy basically that goes over Levi. Well, his brother's involved, but Levi's, is for him. Where it talks about the fact that his the King James say instruments of cruelty are in their habitations, right? Cursed be their displeasure, because their displeasure is fierce, and their wrath, for it is cruel. This is something that's in the DNA of Levi, who Pinchas is. His wrath is cruel, right? And his displeasure is fierce. There's no playing around with his displeasure. But when we think about it, this was as a result of the zealousness that he had for his family. He gonna go. There's no end to the things that he might do as a result of those that he loves. Now you take that same thought process, the one that he loves is the Most High. And so you gonna sit up here and do this thing against the Most High right in front of Moses and everybody and think that it's cool for you to do that? No. He said, no. And so when we think about the idea that, the Levites and this bloodthirst that exists, this thing is actually real. When you think about the golden calf situation, although Aaron was in the middle of all of this, he built the calf, he made it. Whenever they said, the Most High said, to the people who's on my side. Not, I don't know if they knew what was going to happen next, but the Levites was the ones that said, we're on your side. But the thing that happened next was something that they was capable to do, and go kill all the people who was worshiping. Well, they was probably worshiping too, but they didn't make the decision to be on the side of the Most High.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though we see that we're not dealing with a perfect people, there's not a perfect bloodline, there's something inside of them that causes them to be able to stand up for a thing, even unto, and do whatever it is that it takes. Let's see here. If we look at let's go over to Romans. Let's go over to Romans, because this is a very serious thing that we have to be able to incorporate into our situation, not so much as far as going around and exacting the vengeance of the Most High on people, but the idea of not being silent in the face of wickedness. Let's look at Romans chapter 10. Romans. And let's look at just the first 4 verses there.
It says, truly, brothers, my heart's desire and prayer to Elohim for Israel is for deliverance. For I bear them witness that they have an ardor.
A zeal. That word says zeal in the King James. That's that I don't know what kind of word this is.
I'm thinking it's French. You
It's
got a French name, but they're probably Latin. Keep going.
Yeah.
An ardor for Elohim, but not according to knowledge. For not knowing the righteousness of Elohim and seeking to establish their own righteousness. They did not subject themselves to the righteousness of Elohim, or did not obey. For Messiah is the goal of the Torah unto unrighteousness or righteousness to everyone who believes.
Okay, very good. So we see over here, this is interesting. We look at this, we go back up here, that the author here, Paul, is talking about his heart's desire for Elohim to bring deliverance to Israel, right? And so it says that I bear them witness that he wants for them to have a zeal for Elohim, but not according to knowledge, right? Because these people over here, it says for not knowing the righteousness of Elohim and seeking to establish their own righteousness. And again, we talked about this earlier. We talked about these people who come up with these ideas that really are rooted in idolatry. We think about this idea of looseness, and we think about this idea of so-called liberty, when we say that, the Most High, when we take away the borders and the boundaries from the Most High. When we're silent to those that take away the borders of the Most High, we're not being zealous for Elohim. We're agreeing with those people when they sit up here and say, well, you don't gotta keep Shabbat. He knows my heart. You're right. He do know your heart. He know your heart. He know that your heart is wicked, and all you want to do is do whatever feels good to you. understanding that the righteousness of Elohim is in fact Yeshua. And we saw before where we seen that if we operate in love, in love there is no law, because you're operating according to the law. So if you're operating according to it, then there's nothing that the law can do against you. And it says even in verse 4, Messiah is the goal of the Torah unto righteousness. When we allow for Messiah to do what he came to do inside of us, it causes us to walk in a way which is in agreement with the law. And so we're not causing for the will and the ways of the Almighty to be loosened. We're moving in unison with His will and His ways. And so we think about Pinchas in a way that he was better than his fathers, and the fact that he was willing to do what needed to be done for the Most High. The way in which he was different from his grandfather is that his grandfather, we saw that there's 3 times we saw in the scriptures where he was able to just go with the flow instead of standing up for what was right. And I believe that those 3 times was the reason for his final death sentence that he received over there. Okay, let's go over here to Titus.
While you go to Titus, I just wanted to say about Romans 10:4.
Yeah.
A lot of people get tripped up for Romans 10:4 when they read that in the King James.
Yeah.
Because in the King James it says that it's the end of the law.
Yeah.
Right? And I think a lot of
for
people,
righteousness.
Oh yeah, right.
There's no periods or commas or there. That's all together. It's the end of the law for righteousness.
Right. So they think that, the Messiah is the end of the law. Like, you believe in Messiah
for righteousness.
A lot of people get tripped up, and that's why a lot of things, go to where it's gone.
Yeah.
Is, misinterpreting of the scriptures, not doing further research and digging deeper into what they just see on the surface. And I think this is strategic, for a lot of, translations out here, to kind of like throw people off the trail of keeping the Torah.
And these things all fall under the heading of following the teachings of Balaam. Mm-hmm. When he is able to introduce this laxness, this looseness, this idea that our this road has to be this comfortable place. This becomes a problem. And for me, looking at this, this is so simple, right? I understand this completely, because understanding that Messiah truly is the end of the law for righteousness, because I don't receive my righteousness from the law. I receive my righteousness through the thing that Yeshua has done for me. There's such a huge connection between Pinchas and Yeshua, right? The whole Israel received atonement not for anything that they did, they received atonement for something that Pinchas did.
Yeah.
They was their sin, the wrath that the Most High had, that was due them, that was coming for them, that they was about to receive, was covered because of what Pinchas did for them. The fact that he was zealous for Elohim, and that he acted and quenched this gross iniquity that was going on. And when we look at Yeshua and we think about the fact where it talks about him here being the end of the law for righteousness, we are not doing things to cause us to be righteous. We're not doing things and those things make us be righteous. It's because of what Yeshua has done for us that brings us into a state of righteousness, and then now all we do is remain in that state. I mean, to me, this thing over here is crystal clear. There's an issue. There's an issue over here, right? With these people. I bear them witness, the people who he wants to receive deliverance. They have a zeal for Elohim, but not according to knowledge. But what's the knowledge that they don't have? Is the knowledge of the righteousness of Elohim, which isn't the law, is Yeshua. They try to establish their own righteousness, but they don't know the righteousness of Elohim, which actually is Yeshua. And so when we look at this, the way that it's supposed to be looked at, where it's not even hard, it's just kind of just understanding, without putting our presuppositions, because this teachings of Balaam gives us the presuppositions that the law's dead. And so I have to look at the scriptures in that way. The law's done away with. The law has been made lax. These things have been loosened. These things have been put into a place where there's the rigidness has been removed. But we got to understand that the Most High always has and always will hate sin. He's never was okay with sin. And there's nothing that happened in all the history of humanity that the Most High decided that he all of a sudden is now okay with sin. That thing never happened. And so he actually calls for us. It's interesting that Paul is using these words over here, this idea of this zealousness. That's not the problem. The problem is that they're not actually going about things in the proper way. But if we see something else that Paul reads, that he writes over here, we get a better understanding to these things that he's talking about. Let's see here. We go over to the second chapter of Titus. Let's go down here. Let's read from verse 11 down to 14.
It says, "For the saving gift of Elohim has appeared to all men, instructing us to renounce wickedness and worldly lusts, and to live sensibly, righteously, and reverently in the present age."
Hold on, just stop right there. If those people were correct, then when we think about the idea of this thing that's being spoken of over here, the idea that the saving gift of Elohim, who's Yeshua, has appeared to all men, and Yeshua, the saving gift of Elohim, instructed us to renounce wickedness and worldly lust. I don't know about you, but I feel like the only reason how I understand the difference between wickedness and righteousness is through what the Most High calls righteous. He said Yeshua, the saving gift of Elohim, appeared to all men, instructing us to renounce wickedness and worldly lusts. The only way we do that is by understanding what it is that the Most High likes and what He don't like in the Torah. And so this is the teachings of Balaam. It's witchcraft. It's witchcraft over the people who follow the book that we call the Bible, who are disciples of the one that we understand to be the Son of the Most High, causing those people to go astray. Just like we seen over here in Numbers chapter 25, where the teachings of Balaam caused Israel to go astray. Is that we have this thing, this mixture that makes it okay for us to mix our ways with them people's ways, and to commit all of these things that the Most High said that we not supposed to be out here committing. There's nowhere in the Bible where it talks about us getting to a place where Shabbat is not going to be Shabbat anymore. It's going to be another day. There's no prophecy that comes and says that there's going to be a man who comes and he's going to change when Shabbat is.
Oh, there's a prophecy. What? It's talking about somebody else.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. About him changing
Yes. In
Yeah.
Daniel chapter 7. Yeah.
Yep.
That's the wrong person, though. That's
You ain't
not the
supposed to
right.
follow that one.
You following the wrong one.
That's a warning.
Oh, but that's in the Old Testament, though. That's the problem. The so-called Old Testament that people don't want to pay attention to. If we understand who the Most High is, we understand what His character is. If we listen to His actual apostles that He put in this place, to help us to have an understanding as to what it is that He's trying to do, we won't have these problems. But keep on going over here. Read verse 13 and 14.
It says, looking for the blessed expectation and esteemed appearance of the great Elohim and our Savior, Yeshua Messiah, who gave Himself for us to redeem us from all lawlessness and to cleanse for Himself a people, His own possession, ardent for good works.
Zealous for good works. He said He redeemed us from all lawlessness. So for Him to sit up here and buy us back, He paid a price for us to be able to be freed from iniquity. He redeemed us from all lawlessness and to cleanse for Himself a people, which is us, for His own possession, and this people is zealous for good works. This is telling you right there, He cleaned us up, He bought us back, He changed our ownership from Hasatan to Himself. He changed ownership, He redeemed us, He bought us back, He cleansed us up. Now He owns us, and now we're supposed to be zealous for good works. We're servants. We're in His corporation. We're in the corporation of the righteous ones now. And we got the uniform that He gave us to wear. And He just wants to come to work with clean uniforms on. He gave it to us clean. And then He just expects for us to keep them clean.
Yeah.
But He not even just saying for you to just keep it clean with your own power. He giving you the extra strength detergent to use to clean the thing.
Right.
And he got the washing machine too. He give you a washing machine and the detergent
Right.
to clean it.
Get
All you got to do is just do what he said to do.
your job done.
That's it. And so all of these things involve you living and doing certain things. And that's just walking in righteousness that he gave you. He gave you the righteousness. Here, take this righteousness and walk around with it.
You don't even gotta make your own thing up. And a lot of people try to that's going through life trying to figure it out. No, you don't. You don't gotta figure it out. You just gotta obey, and life will help.
Follow me, I think is what he said.
Yeah.
The blueprint.
People just walking out and don't bumping their heads, getting jacked up all around, and still can't figure it out. He said, "Seek ye the kingdom." We said, "Seek me, and everything will be added to you."
Mm-hmm.
But everybody literally try to figure this out. I'm gonna do it my way. I'm gonna do it this way.
All it leads to their ruin.
Yeah. Because we could sit out here and try to do righteousness according to knowledge all we want. But until we understand that he don't want you out here moving in your own uniform, you can't go to work unless you work at some of the McDonald's that they had in the news at the time. The people walking around in their undershirts and whatnot without having they McDonald's uniforms on.
Really?
Yeah. But you can't come to work. You always at work. You can't come to work without your uniform on. You always got to be out here representing your corporation, which is the kingdom.
Coming to work with the garments all dirty. And use the detergent he gave you.
It make it so easy for you to do if we would just do it. And this verse right here is we supposed to be zealous for good works. What that Greek word mean? He said be zealous for good works. So this ain't even just like good works is nice. Good works is, it's a nice thing to do, but we got to be serious. You got to be a zealous for good works. Like, this is serious. This is like Pinchas. He was zealous. He wasn't just going to let that thing just burned him up. Like, you just going to sit up here and do that just in the sight of everybody? He couldn't even restrain himself.
Yeah.
Like, he was kind of like he was out of bounds. Like, they were supposed to take the people and judge them. There was supposed to be a council to deal with these people. Like, they was going to get judged, but, like, that's how you did it.
Yeah.
But he just took matters into his own hands. He couldn't stand it anymore.
Yeah.
And the most I said,
I ain't mad at him.
It's cool. It's cool. Matter of fact, I'm going to give you a reward as a result of it.
He's
a
like,
covenant of peace.
He said, that's what I want to see out of y'all.
It
was an example.
That's what's missing today.
We got to think. The Most High approved that. Like, we want to do things right in his eye. So the dude did that, and he was like, y'all like what? Y'all see what he did? He was an example.
He was blessed. Abundantly blessed. Because he was zealous. He was zealous for good works.
And he was looking out for the Most High and the people. You gotta... take note.
Let's look at 2 John verse 9 through 11.
Says, everyone who is transgressing and not staying in the teaching of Messiah does not possess Elohim. The one who stays in the teaching of Messiah possesses both the Father and the Son. If anyone comes to you and does not bring this teaching, Do not receive him into your house, nor greet him, for he who greets him shares in his wicked works. Dang.
That's serious right there.
That is.
I mean, first of all, everyone who is transgressing is not staying. Not only is he not staying in the teachings, but it says that person does not possess Elohim. The Most High ain't even with you if that's what you out here doing.
Yeah.
You might be saying that you following the teachings of Messiah, but if transgressing is your norm, your current reality, if you been a transgressor, then he's saying that you don't possess Elohim. And then it says anybody who stays in the teaching of Messiah possesses both the Father and the Son. But if you got people that come around you though, and they not on this what he just said right there,
Yeah.
if they saying anything less than that, then you he just coming along. He just learning. Just give him a pass. He just sees nobody's perfect out here. And we do that sometimes. We sit up here and make excuses for people.
Yeah.
But it said, if anyone comes to you and does not bring this teaching, do not receive him into your house, nor greet him.
I mean, that's serious right there.
That is serious.
So that is it greet them out when you out and about, or is it in your house? I think that's out and about. You know how cold you get? I was cold when I first got into this thing. I was cold.
Yeah.
Cold.
I mean, because he's essentially saying these people is Gentiles. These people is outsiders.
But if they in the element,
you can't treat a person who's an outsider like an insider.
right?
But that's what we do. Hey, what's up, brother? Hold on, but you not my brother because you don't got this teaching.
You
Because
don't
think
keep the commandments. What
you
calling
think
me
that
your brother?
you supposed to be loose out here, and the Most High, there's offense around your life when you walk with the Most High.
So it sounds like you trying to pick a fight with everybody when you go out.
I ain't trying to pick a fight. I don't even greet them. I don't even greet them people.
But when they come in, what if they are the first one to try to greet you?
I'm saying like say for instance, like people might say to me, this is something that happens all the time when you have people, because people like me to walk around with a beard, even though my beard be concealed during the week.
Mm-hmm.
I still got a regular beard that's still more than just a regular people.
Yeah.
When it's tucked under, right? And so I be getting assalamu alaikums from people all the time.
Left and right.
All over the place. I don't be whatever is salaming them back to them people. I just say peace.
You say peace?
I do say peace.
When you supposed to come back with the shalom?
No, they can't have no shalom, because shalom, everybody don't really experience shalom. You know what I'm saying? Shalom is something that we experience through the Most High.
Okay. So peace ain't the same then.
Because
It's
I
not-
hit
it's
a lot
not-
of people with the peace too.
I know.
But
You
now
could,
I'm thinking
you
like,
could get a peace,
that
but
like Godspeed?
you could get a peace, but you're not getting shalom, because shalom is more
It's
than
the
that.
rest. It's the
It's more than that.
protection
And
and
so peace is just like a piece of shalom, but it's not the totality of what it is. If you're not on the inside, you can't have a shalom. I'm not giving you that.
what's the
No.
God? What did it say? Godspeed on that?
What's
And the King James,
Yeah.
I think it do say that. Hold on.
Don't bid them Godspeed when they go. Something like that. I wanna
Yeah,
see
that's
that
what it
real
says.
quick.
Yeah, that's what it
What's
I
that?
got
Verse
that.
10?
says. Verse 11.
Wait. Who greets him?
For he that bideth him Godspeed is partaker
Yes.
of his evil deeds.
Let's get that. Cheer.
Cheer, happy, well off. Salutation of
Be
greeting,
well,
be well,
farewell.
That's all. That's peace.
Godspeed, greetings.
So you can't be like be well.
Yeah.
You can't say that no more. So what if I'm like, all right, then go die if you're not going to keep the
Well,
commandments.
I mean, and
you
even
are gonna die.
I mean, even
You
with-
are, but
even them wishing them like peace is like, you know, okay, you're out here spreading wickedness. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, like, 'cause
I
you're
want you to
t-
have
might be too
peace.
much.
because you're
Maybe that's
actually
too
telling
much.
them to go ahead and keep
Maybe
doing your
that's too
wickedness.
much.
Yes.
Maybe that's too much.
Have peace in your
I ain't
wickedness.
Yeah.
gonna pull it back some. What you say.
Wow. So
I
I can
don't have no
so I
problem.
can switch it up.
I don't got no problem with pulling it back because that's what it says right
I'm
over
pulling
there.
it back.
Because if you don't pull it back,
I be saying,
you taking part in their wicked works.
Hey, man.
I thought I was just being nice, you know.
You calling them bro, and
But I'm not
everything.
being
That
nice.
ain't your bro.
What up, bro?
That ain't your bro.
Dang. So now people gonna start hating us.
I mean, they already.
They hate the Most High.
just saying,
So.
what
The
up?
only reason why they don't really is because they think that there's some kind of connection between the two of you. But I think that this over here seems like it's just letting it be known that we don't have no connection with those that are.
So I could take it back to 2009 on them. My first.
Oh, Teresa said, "I'm surprised you don't just nod." That's what I gotta pull it back to that.
Back to the nod.
That's all you get.
But if you're trying to, of course, lead these people to truth.
I mean, then now
We
we gotta
gotta be-
have a conversation. Though.
Right. Yeah. There gotta be.
But I
some
think there's
kind
two ways to think about this over here because this person over here is somebody who is saying that they're something. This ain't somebody who just don't know the message.
All right.
Yeah, because it says everyone who is transgressing and not staying.
Not staying.
So
in
they
the
knew.
teaching of Messiah. So this is somebody
Teaching.
who they
Should
don't
know better.
they should know better,
Yeah.
which is different from somebody who just don't know anything.
So that makes sense. Now that's different. So now you can bark on them.
Right.
Now
This
you
person,
can
now
bark
this person, so this person, yeah, you could have a conversation with this person. Like, hold on, I just seen you over here doing this, that, and this. What you call that? What is this?
So to the ignorant,
But to the ignorant, still, then you still have an ability to be able to shine a light on the person.
yeah.
But you can never co-sign
Yeah, right.
their happiness.
Right.
Like you are in a bad place.
They still get.
You're in a bad place.
Yeah.
Maybe you might be a little less harsh with this person because they don't know no better. This person over here
Should
is
know
like
better.
he should know.
Like you being disobedient. Huh?
But either way, I feel like there is an action that needs to take place, and even in this idea of you kind of pulling back is actually an action in itself. But I thought this was interesting because it's showing you this idea of you being silent to an issue. It's kind of you to share in that thing that they're in. You're not saying that. When we had to go and be and exhibit the zeal of Pinchas, so that the Most High is able to bless us, and so that we're able to actually be lights in this world of darkness. Like we can't go around in this dark place and people not know that we're different, and think that we are dark too.
Mm-hmm. Like you're in agreement with the darkness.
Yeah. And when you think about this over here, when you think about what it talk about in Deuteronomy over here in chapter 6 and verse 5.
And you shall love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart and with all your being and with all your might.
You know, this thing that we should be out here doing is, again, not about some feeling that you have on the inside. It's about an action, right? If I'm dealing with the love of Elohim, that's something that fills my heart. It's something that exudes from the inside out, right? If there's something that is so, great, that's happening truly on the inside of me, is something that is going to be manifest on the outside. And so for me to say that I love Yahweh, my Elohim, with all my heart, and then, you just stand by and, just witness and co-sign even, wickedness around you, then, that's showing just how full your heart is with love. In fact, what it's actually doing is showing that it's not as full as what you thought it was, because the fullness that Pinchas had, it moved him into action. The fullness that Yeshua had, it moved him into action. When we think about, these things that we're supposed to be out here doing, when we read, what Paul talks about, the idea of our zeal, being zealous unto good works. The place that we've been taken to by Yeshua, the love and mercy that he showed towards us, should actually cause us to only want to be pleasing in his sight. And that's not, the way that we show that is not by being quiet, not by, so many times, I run into people or talk to people that it's almost like these people try to guilt you into, being quiet about things. People sit up here and act like, it's a problem with me because I want to sit up here and say something about something that you're doing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it's going to do one or two things. It's going to either cause people to look at themselves and do something different, or they're just not going to talk to you anymore.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I guess you just got to come to terms with the fact that, you walking in righteousness, you being zealous for righteousness, you wanting to be a light in this place of darkness, is going to cause darkness to flee from you.
Yeah.
People don't want you to say anything to them. but you should. Them people probably didn't want Moses and the rest of the congregation to say nothing to them while they were sitting there doing what they was doing. But Pinchas, he didn't pull them to the side after they was done and be like, that was wrong, right?
They don't even want. It's not that they don't want you to say nothing. They just hope you just let them, work their wickedness, and just turn the blind eye, because that's what goes on out here.
I don't know what it is. I mean, it's a new kind of people out here. It's different from anything that I've ever experienced, because people even come to the realization that they don't have all the answers, but neither do you. But if you don't have all the answers, how do you know if my answers is right or if they're wrong? You don't know. I feel like it's just an excuse for people to just be whatever they want to be. But that in itself is lasciviousness, because there's a looseness. Like I want there to be a rigidness. I want that. I want there to be gray areas. I don't want no gray areas. Right. I just want black or white. Is it this or is it that? And if I'm not sure, I gotta lean to the more rigid, not to the more lenient.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
If there's an area of where I'm unsure at, I'm not gonna take the easy way. I'm gonna take the harder way, just to make sure.
Yeah.
Because this thing is so serious, and we really have to really treat it as such. Like I said, when we think about Pinchas, what he did from a legal standpoint was out of bounds. Really, there was a way that could have legally been handled, but because of the fact that he didn't just stand back and just allow for things to happen, and he took action for the Most High blessed him. Sometimes you just got to open up your mouth and say, the Most High will sit up there and it'll cause you to want to say something, and then your carnal mind will be like, this is not the right time. Meanwhile, you were supposed to have said something. You just quenching the spirit. That's what's happening. And so, we have to be able to not give in to these different forms of lasciviousness, of looseness, these things that this liberty that people say, I'm free.
This is my life.
But you're not free to live a life on the fence. And you're definitely not free to live this life according to the teachings of Balaam. Because this is something that we don't think about, but when we think about this mainstream Christian doctrine, it's the teachings of Balaam.
Yeah. Where the so-called freedom just destroys a whole people. This freedom is destroying us.
Yeah.
The so-called, I can live the way I want to live.
And empower you to be bold and to push the limits and go beyond the wickedness you're doing. You can do it. You can go to the next level of wickedness. Whatever you can think of.
Do people coming in the door have a time to figure it out without being corrected? I'm saying no.
That don't make sense.
without being corrected. No, well, you can have time to figure it out, but you need to be corrected
While you figuring it out.
while you're figuring it out.
There's two type of parenting styles I observe. The one is the mom or dad that didn't beat you like right on the spot as soon as you did something. They'd be like, yeah, when we get home, you know what time it is. But then you had the parent. Well, you did something.
No matter where you at.
No matter where you was at. You get it in the room full of your friends, your whatever.
Yeah.
Bow! Soon as you...
Yeah.
And we need more of that.
Yeah. And so, people are imperfect, and we're all imperfect. But when if people can't accept correction, then you can't really have a relationship with them.
Yeah. You should want to be around people who can correct you, because that's it's an active thing.
Yeah.
I don't know why people. Why do we need each other? Or the scriptures say, "Forsake not the congregation," for a reason. If you can't do, because you can make up anything. You say, "Well, I could just figure it out." It don't. No, our life don't work like that. We need each other, and that brings accountability for your actions, so you can. We're supposed to judge each other. We're supposed to be the judges of the earth with this information. So if you are waiting, you can't be judged, or you can't, you don't want to be around, then what's the point?
Yeah. There is no point. Yeah. So definitely the people do have time to figure it out with correction.
Yeah, and you're supposed to be able to trust the people's opinion that you're around to make those judgments, because they're there to actually help you.
Right.
If you believe in this walk, then you should believe the people that you with, and we're here to help you. That's all it is. We're supposed to help each other.
I know. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. That is right. The saying now is if you see something, say something. Yeah. It applies to it most definitely applies to this walk. Because if you don't say something, then you're agreeing with it.
Right.
If there's somebody who's my brother, who's my sister, and they're doing whatever they're doing, that I think, if I think that is something that's wrong, and I don't say something about it, then I guess I don't really think that it's that wrong that I need to say anything about it. I'm agreeing with it. I agree with your behavior. Your behavior is fine.
Right. But and also too, is the people that you're dealing with. It's not our opinion. It's based off the scripture.
Yeah.
So it's not like we make you should. The person that's coming at you should have a scripture in mind. And you can ask to be like, okay, what scripture is that? Because you got to have the confidence and know that we're just not, it's not a bias or having favoritism or I got it out for you. So I'm trying to, be your enemy for whatever reason. No, according to the scripture, I feel like you going against what we trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that'd be the main thing. People be like, well, that's how you say it.
But then now you got counsel. Now 2 or 3 are gathered.
That's your opinion. Right. That's what you think.
Because you got people like that.
I had a dream, and the dream, Most High told me, you know what I'm saying? I was doing that dream. I got a different relationship.
Right. Yeah, people coming with their dreams. Nah, you don't gotta look. That's going too far.
Yeah,
we got the book for a reason.
We don't gotta guess about anything.
Right. It's the easy button. The book's the easy button. If we all use it, well, we gotta argue, or
I mean, at that point, you just gotta be like, all right, we going our separate ways because we can't walk together unless we agree.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I would say. And so, just kind of lastly, just want to kind of just say that you know, you know, we have to be able to learn something from the zeal of Pinchas. We have to be able to understand that, you know, we definitely have to, you know, a way that we shine our light, the way that we don't put our light under a bushel, under a table, the way that we allow our light to shine is to actually let it shine, and to not, you know, be darkened or dimmed in the face of darkness. We have to actually do what the Most High called and desires for us to actually do, and that's to you know, enact change, you know, in the places that we touch, and not just to be some you know, a bystander, right? But an actual participant in the continuation of light and righteousness in this world. Okay, so that being said, does anybody have any last questions, comments about any of these things? Okay, that being said, we want to just remind everybody to like the video. If you're up in here, hit that thumbs up, share the video, let people see what we over here talking about, and y'all willing, next week we will be back on next Shabbat and talk about these wonderful scriptures some more. All right. So that being said, for now we'll say Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.